Am I the a-hole for calling my sister-in-law out and leaving my house with my baby shower gifts and causing her to be shunned by my in-laws? Me, female 29, and my husband, male 32, are expecting our first baby together. In case it's relevant, my husband comes from a well-off family, while I come from a family that was not. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'd have a great family that I wouldn't replace for all the money in the world. My in-laws are great too, and they treat me good. Save for my brother-in-law Austin, who likes to point out how beneath his levels I am, although his wife comes from poor family too, and they are also expecting. My sister planned a baby shower for me. It wasn't fancy, but it was affordable and great. My sister-in-law showed up empty-handed and criticized my baby shower party up and down and talked about how glamorous hers will be. She asked my sister how much the party cost her and joked that the dress she wore probably costs more. She was acting rude and arrogant to my family and friends, but none of my in-laws said anything. My sister put the gifts in the other room, then we continued celebrating. After the party, my sister notified me that there were a number of gifts missing, including the one she brought. We looked around and couldn't find them. Then I checked the camera footage and saw my sister-in-law walking out with several gifts that were given by my own family and friends. I was fuming and called to confront her. I'd asked her to bring the gifts back, but she denied and was hurt that I accused her of stealing from me and said she'd tell the family about me lying when I insisted. I told her I have a video and have no problem involving the family too to see who's at fault. She hung up and I waited, then shared the footage with all of my in-laws. It blew up, and many of them shamed her for what she did and told her to give the stuff back. She still didn't respond, but Austin was livid and called me to ask about the nonsense I fabricated about his wife, and called me gross with a wild imagination to even think that his wife would steal cheap gifts from my low-class family, much less have the gall to go lie to his entire family about it, and caused his wife to be publicly shamed and shunned. Mother-in-law was so upset too. She said I messed up and should have resolved this privately, instead of going nuclear and ruining sister-in-law's relationships over a few gifts, and offered to pay for them if I take the post down. My husband was out of the country, and she said she'll call him personally to tell him to handle me when I refused. And she said, just wait till he gets back. Well, husband reacted differently. He even got into an argument with Austin and told him his wife was the cheap one for stealing his baby stuff. I got my stuff back, but haven't heard anything from my sister-in-law. Mother-in-law said sister-in-law doesn't steal. She's better than that. And I shouldn't call it stealing, so she must have had another reason. She is in Austin at his wife's side after he argued with my husband. Now, I feel like I just drove a wedge in my husband's family for this. Now, for the top comments. The nuclear option is calling the police and pressing charges. Sister-in-law got off easy. Not the whole. I'd be pulling that video up every holiday. Notice how the mother-in-law dropped her own variation of narcissist prayer in defense of sister-in-law. Too bad you can't make a video your profile picture. Not the whole. I feel like I just drove a wedge in my husband's family for this. You didn't. Her stealing did. You did what anyone would do, and you even gave her a chance to fess up privately before involving anyone else. It really takes some enablers to watch a video of someone literally stealing, and then go ahead and blame the victim of the said theft. Not the a-hole. This absolutely is a hill I would die on. You don't get to steal from me, and then cry you're the victim because I shared a video of you stealing. No. Not the a-hole. Not at all. She stole your baby gifts. There's no excuse for that, and your mother-in-law enabling that behavior is disgusting. You gave her a private opportunity to right the wrong, and she didn't take it. She screwed up more than once here. Kudos to your husband. Not the a-hole. Your mother-in-law should be ashamed of supporting your sister-in-law. If she didn't want it to be made public, your sister-in-law should have returned the gifts as easily as she stole them. Stay away from them. I'd consider it a blessing to be rid of them before giving birth. You don't need any of these people around your child. Now, for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not helping my husband clean the house/host his family? My husband and I have been married for 11 years, but there has always been some friction when it comes to household chores and hosting guests. My husband has always maintained that he has a higher threshold for messes, meaning that he won't think something needs attention as quickly as I do. However, he is always willing to clean when I ask him to. This often causes friction when we have guests over, as I feel like I have to scramble to clean the house and prep food and drinks whenever anyone comes over. He will generally handle the cleanup afterwards, but he's terrible about budgeting time before people come over. Example, he is almost always just barely getting in the shower when people arrive at our house. This afternoon, my mother-in-law is driving through our town and wants to stop by and see our house for the first time. This is also the first time we will be seeing her in almost 2 years. I have been reminding my husband for 2 weeks to finalize when she is coming, so that I can free up my schedule at work and get the house sorted out. We both work from home, but both of us have regular meetings that can't be arbitrarily skipped. Last night, I reminded him again to text his mom to find out when she would be here, and I reminded him that I have a meeting at 1 p.m. that it is now too late to reschedule. This morning, at about 7 a.m., he finally contacted her and told me that she's already left and she wants to be here at noon for lunch. He wants me to entertain/host until my meeting so he can finish up his own work. Would I be the a-hole if I stick to my work schedule and let him deal with this situation? I have projects that I need to finish, and I'm just so tired of him waiting until the last second and expecting me to drop everything and scramble around fixing everything. I feel like I'm just being petty because it really bothers me when he doesn't help out, especially when it's my family coming over, but I'm also just annoyed at how last minute this is since I've been reminding him for weeks. Not a a-hole. Your spouse didn't listen multiple times you ask and should take responsibility, especially since you both work from home. Her work is just as important as his, but he's told her essentially that hers is irrelevant. Totally 100% not a a-hole. Husband has to put on big boy pants. Not a a-hole. I would pop out and say hello to your mother-in-law. You haven't seen her in 2 years. Your husband agreed to host her for lunch. If he doesn't want to prepare anything, he can order takeout. Also, he can clean the house. He's known she was coming for 2 weeks. Not a a-hole. Your husband is about to learn a valuable lesson about planning, cleaning, and having guests. You're tired of having to drop everything last minute because of his poor planning. One way to stop him from doing it again is to let him have the consequences of his own inaction. He knew she was coming. Okay, let him handle it. Well, if you keep fixing these situations for him, he will keep doing the same thing. Let him learn the hard way. I agree, 100%. I just don't want to pick an excessively bad time to take a stand, and I really don't like petty fights in front of other people. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for being less than nice to a distant family member that came over unannounced and woke my whole house up? So I, 32 male, was at home with my wife, 32 female, and our 2 children, a 3-year-old boy and a daughter that is just a month old. My wife has been very sleep deprived for obvious reasons, and I've been struggling too. She went to bed at 7 p.m. and my 1-month daughter had just gone down too. 7:40 rolls around and I'm snuggling my son, getting him ready for bed. We hear a knock at the door. My dog barks and my baby and wife gets woken up. The person at the door was a very distant relative that has a tendency to overstep. She's my great uncle's adopted son's wife, and I've never liked her, and I have good reason, as she yelled at my mom for not getting invited to my wedding years ago. Anyways, I answer, and I said, "What are you doing here?" She hands me a bag with some baby clothes for the new baby, which is a nice gesture, but not at damn near 8 p.m. when she knows we just had a baby. I said thank you and goodbye. She kept trying to talk to me. I not so politely said, "You just woke my whole freaking house up. Don't ever come here without calling me first again." I thought about calling and apologizing, but I really don't think I was in the wrong. Crazy rude on her part, right? So that's what I got. Tell me, am I the a-hole? Edit. For what it's worth, this woman has always been a line stepper. She yelled at my mom for not getting invited to my wedding. She also cheats on my actual relative, and everyone knows it but him. Plenty of people have told him, but he refuses to believe it. I should have included this before. I also wake up very early for work. Lots of mentions of training my dog better. We have had break-ins before, and I have a family to keep safe. I want my dog to bark when there's a stranger at my door, and she is extremely well trained. Now for the comments. Not a a-hole. I know you could have been nicer, but new babies and lack of sleep make us grumpy, crabby patties, so you get a pass. She was rude for not texting/calling ahead of time to ask if it's a good time to come over. Put a big sign on your front door that says, "Newborn baby, please do not disturb," or something. I've seen it done before. Congrats on your new baby and beautiful family. Thank you. Good advice. I get the feeling that those who think I am the a-hole are not parents, and those who think I am not the a-hole are parents. Haha. Some of us non-parents also think you're not the a-hole. Even if you take the kiddos out of the equation, I still hate people just dropping by without calling/texting first. Maybe it's the millennial in me, but I will fully not answer the door if someone does that. And it's 8 p.m. on a weekday. Most people will have to work in the morning. After college/early 20s, nobody just stops by to hang out after dark, with no warning, unless it's a best friend or someone you're sleeping with. Your relative is rude, and I would have been snappy with her too. Not a a-hole. I don't understand the other comments. You don't show up unannounced when someone just had a baby, especially not in the first month. I get she had presents, and honestly, I would have responded the same way. It's just rude to do even if it's your best friend and not a distant relative. Maybe apologize and say we were all tired and we appreciate it, but reinforce, please do not stop by again without letting us know. I'm struggling with the rules of this sub because I want to defend myself when people say I'm the a-hole. I honestly wasn't expecting people to say I was the a-hole, lol. I know I was, a little, but what you did majorly trumped what I did, I thought. Not the a-hole. Training your dog better? What? Dogs are supposed to bark when someone's at your door. At least that's what I want mine to do. Thank you. Rip on me if you want to, but you leave my dog out of it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for saying no to my sister and brother-in-law staying at my place for my wedding? My older sister, 36 female, married her husband, 38 male, 10 years ago. At the time, she had my niece who was 6 and my nephew who was 5. I, 25 female, was 15 and he was a domineering prick. I remember staying with my sister for a weekend and he was a prick because I didn't make the bed the way he liked it made, military style, and he made me remake the bed twice to get it just right. He didn't like the way I eat either and said I needed to learn how to shovel food in so we can move on with the day. The weekend I spent there was awful and he treated me like crap. He was also hard on my niece and nephew, and they were miserable. My sister was happy with things, and she told me as much when I spoke to her about it. Not much has changed. Her husband is still the very same way, and is very hard to get along with. He's one of those guys that never leaves the military training behind. He acts like we're all in the army, and holds us to those standards. It has created a lot of tension with my niece and nephew who despise their stepdad, and have admitted they want to move out as soon as they can. But that's not the issue here, or at least I feel this is relevant to the issue at hand. I'm getting married, and I invited my sister, brother-in-law, and the kids. The kids aren't coming, my sister said. They want a weekend without the teens, and she wants her and her husband to stay at my house. I said no. She asked me why. I said I don't want him barking orders in my home the morning of my wedding, and that she knows that's what he will do, as it does it every time they stay at our parents' house. My sister told me I never gave him a chance, and denying them a chance to stay isn't fair, because he's always been there for us and treated us like his family. I told her it doesn't excuse any of it, and when I have brought it up before when I have told him to stop ordering people around or treating us like kids, he ignores us. And I do not want that energy in my home the day of my wedding. She thinks I'm an a-hole for saying no. Her husband thinks I'm the world's biggest a-hole, and that I am wrong to treat them differently just because I don't like him. Am I the a-hole? It's your wedding, not the a-hole. They want a weekend without the kids? They can rent a nice hotel room and really live it up. It's hilarious to think him barking orders at the hotel cleaning staff as they make the bed. Tuck that corner in, you maggot. Not the a-hole. That I'm wrong to treat them differently because I don't like him. But that's exactly why you should treat him differently. He's cruel and abusive to his children and his family, so no one likes him. These are the consequences of his choices. Also, your sister sadly is his enabler. These two are simply not mature enough to have a healthy view of the situation. They're going to continue to act like victims because they are horrible narcissists. Not an a-hole. Exactly. What is this absolute BS that he should be treated as nicely as everyone else, despite the fact that he is a rampaging a-hole? Not today, Holopi. Have a lovely wedding day. They're not even his children. They're his stepchildren. And sister has basically allowed him to make them miserable. She'll be shocked when they move out the second they turn 18. Not the whole. It's your house, your wedding, and you choose who stays at your place. And your wedding's the last day you should have to put up with someone you don't like. Not to mention, he'd probably be shouting military-style orders on the wedding night. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad I owe him nothing and throwing his words back at him during an argument? The gist is this. I lost my mom to a long-term health issue when I was 10. The cost of treatment drained my parents' finances, and it was just dad and me after mom died. No extended family. Dad started dating when I was 12 and he met Jane, and after a few months, he told me her son had a form of brain cancer and was very sick, and that they were getting married and he would be helping to take care of her son. We went from 2 in a tiny 2-bedroom house to 4 in a tiny 2-bedroom house, and me sharing with a terminally ill toddler I didn't know. We had to make so many changes. No more takeout, which was a once-a-month treat before that. I had to stop my only extracurricular activity. No friends over because noise bothered him. No space that was just mine. Had no extra money for celebrating birthdays and Christmas. When I was 15, Dad and I got into a huge argument because I was never home and was always saying no to helping Jane take care of her son. When I told him how much I hated the situation, he looked me in the eye and told me to grow up. He also told me that I was old enough to understand that life wasn't always easy or fun, and that a rougher life can build character. He told me we grew our family, which was a good thing, and one of the consequences of that sometimes is having less, but that it was worth it for the extra love. I told him it was BS. He told me I was not his whole life, and he was not going to stop doing what he wanted to do because of me. Then he told me to never ever say anything negative around his stepson because he was a kid and didn't need to know I resented him for being sick. After that talk, I was even more distant and left before I turned 18 right after graduation, couch surfed until I went to college, and I didn't stay in touch. When I was 19, I heard that Dad's stepson had died. In college, I met my wife and we got married this past June. Then in November, my dad showed up and told me he wanted to talk, but I shut the door in his face. He kept showing up where I was to talk, and after getting annoyed with him, I agreed to meet him for coffee. He told me how he'd ended up divorced from Jane and how his stepson had died, and he looked disappointed when he learned I knew. Then he told me how he'd been struggling a lot and how he was hoping I could help him out. I laughed in his face and told him he had some nerve. He mentioned how he'd spent a lot of money on finding me and he wanted us to repair things, but he also needed my help. I told him no way. He became angry and told me he was my dad and was always there for me and I owed him. I told him I owed him nothing, and I threw most of his words back in his face, including that he needed to grow up and that he was not my whole life and would not stop me from doing what I want. It became a bit of a scene, then told me at my age I should have grown more compassion. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your dad sacrificed you so that he could bang. And as things turned out, the family he created wasn't all that real after all. He was just a patsy to help take care of a sick kid. You owe him nothing. Wife probably left as soon as her son was buried. That prospect sounds so real that I stopped. I'm a mom, and if one of my kids died, I wouldn't want to stay married or be able to even look at someone who just threw their child away, when I did everything I could to keep mine alive. Once the haze of it was over, Opie's dad probably disgusted her. It doesn't sound like she was too worried about him throwing his kid away when hers was sick. Not the a-hole. Your dad quite literally showed up after he had nothing left but you. That's a huge red flag, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. My dad is just like this. He left when my mom died at 17 and slept around with other women while she was in the hospital. Then he wasted all her life insurance money in a Rolex, and he's been trying to contact me for years. Last year, I finally agreed to meet with him against my better judgment, and the second thing he said to me after saying I've gotten pretty was that he needed help paying off his car. I immediately stood up and left. Huge not the a-hole OP. You owe him nothing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my daughter her education fund money? I, 54 male, have 2 children, 23 female and 21 male, with my wife, 52 female. When the kids were young, my parents set up education funds for both of them, which was very generous of them. My wife and I always expected our kids to attend college and then graduate school, as we have done. I have a PhD, my wife has a master's. Because of this, we decided not to use the funds for our kids' undergrad degrees and did not tell them about the money. My daughter has always been more into the liberal arts, while my son is more of a STEM guy. My wife and I worried about her ability to find a job, but she insisted on studying music and film in college. She was accepted to some top schools and chose to attend a rather expensive one, but she had scholarships to cover almost all of her tuition. Everything else, plus living expenses, was her responsibility. She lived in a very small apartment shared with friends in a not-so-nice area far from campus, but she was fine and learned how to budget effectively. After graduating, she luckily found a job that doesn't pay extremely well, but she enjoys, and scrapped the idea of grad school. My son decided to do engineering, and he also expressed that he had no interest in grad school. My wife and I were disappointed but accepted it since at this point, he is already all set up with a very good job when he completes school. Since he did not receive as many scholarships as his sister, we decided to use his education fund to cover his tuition and living expenses. He was able to get a large and nice apartment of his own close to the school, which is important since his classes are so demanding and he needs a comfortable space to work. My daughter was confused and asked how he could afford this, and he told her about the education fund. She called us and asked why she didn't have one, and we told her she did. We just didn't use it because we hoped she would attend grad school. She seemed hurt by this and asked if there was any way she could have the money now. We explained that there would be a fee to simply withdraw the money for non-education uses, and if we chose to do that, it would belong to her grandparents, so they could put it towards their own use. She's been quiet and short when answering our texts and hasn't answered our calls at all since then. I know that it seems unfair to her, but it's not really her money in the first place, and she's no longer in college. Plus, her brother only received it for educational purposes and it wouldn't be right for her to just have it to spend now. Am I the a-hole? So let me get this right. Your daughter attended college and had a scholarship. Your son attended college with no scholarship. You chose not to let your daughter use her college fund for everything that her scholarship didn't cover, and you let your son use his for everything. The college fund, you said, wasn't even her money, but isn't yours either. What exactly do you plan to do with her college money? You're the a-hole for this. Not to mention a college fund her grandparents set for her. He's basically stealing her money. Major, you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole, and I'm surprised between your PhD and master's degrees you couldn't figure that out. Two highly educated fools. Education does not equate intelligence or self-awareness. You're the a-hole. Oh dear, just goes to show you that having PhD and a master's does not neither make you a good parent nor smart in any way. Also, graduate degrees are cheaper, especially PhDs. Most doctoral programs pay you to be there. This was all around really dumb, and you're the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for backing up my brother in saying our step-sibling's mom and siblings shouldn't be invited to his birthday party while our step-siblings were there? My brother will be 14 in March, and my mom wanted to throw him a bigger than normal birthday party to make up for not having any celebration with others outside the household since 2019. My brother was really excited and asked if our grandparents, our aunts, and cousins could be there. And mom said it was just for her side, and that our grandparents would probably do their own thing with him. He asked if our stepdad's ex-wife and her kids, 2 from before her time with our stepdad and 3 came after, would be there. And she said of course, because they're family, and they're our step-siblings' bio-siblings. He said that wasn't fair, because they aren't his family, and why are we trying to include them? My mom said they are family, and we all want to get along and make sure everyone is treated just like family should. My stepdad said it would mean a lot to his kids, our step-siblings, who are 10 and 8. But my brother said if his family couldn't be there, then the step-siblings didn't get to have their family at his birthday party. I said I agreed, and I told them I wouldn't want them at mine either because they are not family to us. Our step-siblings were there and got upset, and asked why their mom and siblings couldn't be there. Our mom and stepdad assured them they would be there, but my brother said it wasn't fair, and said he didn't want them there and didn't care about them. Mom was furious and yelled at him, and I told her she couldn't expect him to want them there or to have strangers there just for our step-siblings, when she literally just said we couldn't have our family there because it was just for her side. Mom was angry at me, told me I'm the oldest and should be responsible and not encourage him. She said blended family should be about inclusion and welcoming everyone in. I told her that she was going against what she said by excluding our dad's family. She told me that's different because they are no longer anything to do with her. I told her that didn't mean they weren't something to do with us, and that dad's death did not erase the loving grandparents and aunts we had on his side. She told me I was being unfair and should not have agreed in front of my step-siblings, because now they're upset and don't understand why we don't like their family. Am I the a-hole? The people my brother does not want at his party are not our step-siblings, but their mom and their siblings from their mom. They're not related to us. It's their dad who is married to our mom, and his ex-wife and her other children from different men have nothing to do with my brother. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You are absolutely right. And it's good you stood up for your brother. The wrong thing here is that your mother is limiting this to her side of the family, completely excluding your deceased father's side. She isn't even considering inviting your grandparents, aunts, cousins, etc., despite the fact that you and your brother love them and would like them to be there. Let's keep in mind that a party is supposed to be for your brother. The other weird thing is for your mother to be so fond of her husband's ex's children, who aren't even his kids. I hope I didn't get this wrong. Your stepdad has some kids from a previous marriage, your step-siblings. Your stepdad's ex got remarried and had additional children. Those children have an active father in their life, right? Why is your mother so desperate to include some other family's children? Why does she want to include the ex-wife of her husband to her child's 14th birthday? That's far-fetched. She needs to decide if the party is small, just a few close family members, or if this is a huge party with just about everyone, in which case your father's side should also be invited. You got it mostly right. Stepdad's ex had 2 kids when they met, 2 with him and then 3 after they divorced. Those 5 kids are not my stepdads, are apparently invited along with their mom/stepdad's ex. I know my stepdad and mom get along with his ex okay, but she and her kids are really not people my brother and I consider part of the family at all. Not the a-hole. Your mom is applying rules based on what she is related to, not based on who the honoree, your brother, is related to. It sounds like there was a blended family due to death, not abuse or neglect or anything, so it seems weird for her to exclude half your family. And she is not even related to them. It is her stepchildren's mother's family. She is honestly just bending backwards to please her husband, which is just ridiculous. Her child's birthday party should have their family. It's more likely she just hates her old in-laws and doesn't want to be around them. She tried disguising this with the "my family only" excuse, but shot herself in the foot by then inviting people who are clearly not her family. She is being an idiot for making dumb excuses. I have no idea whether her dislike for the old in-laws is justified or not, but it would have been better to be upfront. I don't think it's fair to blame her new husband for this situation. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not moving my wedding date? My fiancé and I recently got engaged, and when looking at dates, we realized our anniversary falls on a Saturday this year. Perfect, right? We immediately start planning because it's approximately 9 months out and we have to move quick to pull a wedding together. We told everyone the potential date this weekend and all seemed well. Monday, I get a phone call from my father. He insists that I move the date because my mother has a yoga retreat that weekend. I tell him that this date means a lot to me and I would prefer to keep it if there was any way to move the retreat. There is, but it's expensive. I offer to pay for this change out of my wedding budget, essentially having the amount that I can spend on the most important event of my life. Yesterday, I was told that they would not be taking my offer to pay to move the retreat, and that we're expected to move the wedding instead. I haven't put money on my venue yet, so they think I should be fine with giving up the chance to marry on a date that means a lot to me. It became a massive fight, and now my parents and I aren't speaking. My father accused me of caring about a date more than I care about my mother. I told him that it felt as though they were choosing yoga over their own daughter. Your parents are prioritizing a yoga retreat over your wedding? I told him that it felt as though they were choosing yoga over their own daughter. They 100% are. Have the wedding without them. Not the a-hole. And I would be petty and put on the photos why they weren't at the wedding. Opie's parents suck. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. First of all, congratulations on your upcoming wedding. However, I'm sorry to say your parents have made it perfectly clear where on their priority list their child is. It is apparently below yoga. And you are right, she is choosing yoga over you. A yoga retreat is something that can be done anytime. Your wedding will only happen once. Don't let your father say you don't care about your mother. He is gaslighting you. Also, has OP actually talked to the mother about this? Seems like Dad is passing messages back and forth. Is Daddy-O playing the old triangulation game? Not the a-hole. Your parents are being absurdly self-centered. The polite thing for them to do would be to reschedule or cancel the retreat without ever telling you, so as not to impinge on your wedding planning excitement. Just to make sure, because this is honestly so over the top it's baffling to me, is your mom attending the retreat or is she leading it? Attending. They have this retreat yearly and there is also makeup dates for the classes she would miss. Wow, they want you to move your wedding for something she goes to on a regular basis? You are even more not the a-hole than I thought before. There is no reason that she can't skip something that happens yearly for a unique event. Like someone else said, they shouldn't have even mentioned it to you. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take my ex-wife as +1 to my son's wedding? My son is 22, my daughter is 18. 6 years ago, my daughter caught my wife with another man. She told her brother who understood what she had witnessed. Then they both came and told me. I verified that it was true, then I divorced my wife. During the divorce hearing, both of them expressed a desire to stay with me, so I was given primary custody, with my ex getting 1 week a month, and she moved in with the other guy. I have done my best to cut my ex out of my life. Our communication is limited to the bare minimum needed to coordinate custody and shared expenses, and I have never talked about our relationship to my kids. Initially, after the divorce, she told me that our kids were giving her hell when it was her custody, and that I needed to talk to them. I sat them down and asked if it was true, and they said they didn't want to stay there. But I explained that it would be best for everyone if they remained civil until they turned 18, so we wouldn't have to go back to court. I didn't get complaints after that, so it seemed to be working. When my son turned 18, he moved back in with me full-time and started college. He graduated now and is getting married in a few months. My daughter turned 18 last summer and moved back in with me full-time too. My ex-wife called me today, and she started crying saying that she was not invited to my son's wedding. Then she told me that my son hasn't talked to her in over a year. He has still been dropping in after turning 18 to visit his sister sometimes, but eventually stopped doing that too. Likewise, apparently my daughter stopped talking to her after turning 18 too. My ex-wife asked if I would bring her as my +1 so she could see her son getting married. But I told her that if my son didn't invite her, it wasn't my place to bring her. Then she started accusing me of turning them against her and threatening to take me to court. I just told her that there was no more custody agreement to take to court since both of them are above 18, and hung up. I sat down with both of them later and asked them if they had cut contact with their mother, and they both admitted it. I explained to them that they did not need to do that for my sake, and I still recognize she's their mother. But they both said they had talked about it a lot and their plan was always to hold out until they were 18. But they had no desire to be around her or the other guy because she had destroyed our family. I told them that they're adults, and if that's their decision, I won't pressure them to change it. I was telling my sister what happened, and to my surprise, she said my son wasn't being fair, that I should make him invite his mother to the wedding. Am I the a-hole for refusing the attempt? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She had 6 years to figure out how to at least repair enough damage that her kids wouldn't go no contact the moment they were able. Sounds like the opposite happened. Not the a-hole. Your son should consider hiring security to ensure she doesn't crash the wedding or even come as your sister's +1. Not the a-hole, but your sister is. I don't know what is with people pushing family members to reconcile simply because they are blood related, but it's something that needs to stop. People are allowed to choose who they want in their lives, and just because someone helped create you doesn't mean you have to choose them. You should forgive family when they do something inconvenient or annoying. You can forgive family for doing something mildly stupid or embarrassing and they're sorry. But a-holes, especially unrepentant ones, do not get a free pass just because you're related. Not the a-hole. It seemed like you did your best to encourage them to have some contact with their mother. But they are adults now and can decide whether they want to or not, and they clearly decided. Next story. Am I the a-hole for insisting on meeting in public for custody exchanges? I, 31 male, am divorced from my ex, 33 female, for several years now. 50-50 custody of my 2 children, 13 male and 9 female, though it's defaulted to me having them 80% of the time since the divorce. The past few years have been littered with false CPS reports and them coming to my house talking to my children, just for a few weeks to go by and everything is closed and we move on, just for it to happen again. Then, we moved a few months ago. I disclosed my address to the court, and all parties involved except my ex. Since we moved, the CPS visits have stopped completely, but I keep in touch with a caseworker who's helped me with finding my son help with his mental health. Everything has been kosher for months. We've been using the school schedule for custody exchanges as it makes things easier. Then, I recently found out from my niece, ex's bio family, that my ex weaponized CPS to make my life hell. So now with the holiday, MLK landing on an exchange day, my ex is demanding to drop them off at my house. I've told her we can meet at a police department and do a secure exchange. There's marked parking spots with surveillance cameras and everything, and she's refusing, saying that I'm hiding things and she just needs to know. Am I the a-hole for insisting on all meetings and interaction be through monitored channels? Not the a-hole, and that is a very smart thing to do. Make sure you let the caseworker know that CPS calls coincidentally ended when the ex didn't know where you were. When you meet at a police department, make sure you don't go straight home. She or one of her friends may be following you to see where you live. I wish you the best. We're going grocery shopping first and maybe a pack of magic cards for my son. I considered I may be followed already, but I really do appreciate the forethought. If the kids have cell phones, check the location permissions in apps like Find My iPhone or any social media with location sharing. Location services are only on for Google services, which is connected to my account so I can find their devices. Had an incident where we had to find his phone by a friend's house last year, and since then I've been meticulous. Not the a-hole. Your ex has proven her egregious use of CPS, that she cannot be trusted. She's not looking out for your children. She's looking for ways to hurt you. Since this in turn hurts your children, continue to protect both of them and yourself. Keep meeting in public and keep your address private as long as possible. If there's any way to file charges against her or to get her to face consequences for her actions, please do so. Your ex is not only hurting you, but also children who genuinely need the intervention of CPS whose time and resources your ex continues to misuse. Unfortunately, misusing resources with CPS isn't chargeable because it's not emergency services. This is pretty much verbatim what the police department told me, but I'm pretty sure the officer just didn't want to get involved. Not the a-hole. I would normally say exes should know where one another lives, but this is no ordinary case. Keep meeting in public. When she complains, ask her what she is hiding. I actually just texted her this, and she responded with whatever. So I'm 99% sure this is a game to her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my brother be part of the family business? First, some important info. I, 44 male, have a younger brother, 41 male, and we are the only children. Also, we are not from the US or any Western country. My father passed away almost 10 years ago. Since our mother was also dead, we divided his estate equally. His estate was a farm of 12 hectares, 30 acres. Back then, it had a house, a barn, a pond, wheat fields, and olive fields. We were both working office jobs in the city and did not want to be farmers. But after my dad died, my wife convinced me to quit, buy out my brother, and start a business with her, as she had degrees in business and hospitality while I was working in accounting. And that's what I did. I bought out my brother at market price. After that, my wife and I transformed the farm, got government subsidies to make our farm more sustainable, transformed the area by the pond into a garden and romantic strolling route and a fishing spot. The closest farm plots were made into a pedagogic farm, and some made available to guests to rent, built small houses, built a stable, and bought some horses. We made it into a retreat where you can either spend a day, act as a farmer and have some authentic food, or rent a cabin and try to farm life. The rest of the farm was left to farmhands. Since we are barely 2 hours outside city limits, it became a booming business. We were booked solid all year. We have schools coming for tours, activities every weekend, couples throwing their weddings here. And after the first 5 years, we were able to pay off our debt and are making great money. My brother used his money to buy a house, 2 cars, and on his children's schooling. And they are living well. I would say upper middle class by my country's standards, but nothing like me and my family. Now he says that he wants in on the business, that what he was paid was not fair. I told him no, that he got what his land was worth back then. Now he is no longer talking to me and he is the only family I have left. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He got market value for his half. He used it up, while you invested your time and money and now you are getting your return on investment. No need to feel guilty. Right. If it's the other way around and OP's business tanked, he would not have the right to ask his brother for money because he overpaid. Good on you, OP. His jealousy is not your responsibility, and you can focus on the family you have, and not the family who does not want to be there. Not the a-hole. The only way I could side with your brother would be if you took advantage of his grieving and bought a share. I do doubt this as a possibility, considering it must have taken some time for your wife to convince you to give up your career to suddenly become a farmer. Also, it's been 10 years, and he hasn't mentioned any regret during that time. I think it's clear your brother is having money troubles or perhaps a midlife crisis. Either way, he got a fair deal for his share. If he wants back in, he can offer to repurchase his half. OP says his brother is upper middle class, so I think it's regret for missing out on the opportunity. If OP never told him he and his wife had big plans when they bought out the brother, I could see why he feels a little resentful. That's pure speculation though. I asked about it elsewhere, so maybe OP will clarify. But brother wasn't forced to sell. I told him about our plans, but not in detail since we only had vague ideas then. Not the a-hole. If he had invested his half of the money into literally anything else, would he share the fruits of that investment with you? I don't think so. You had all the work transforming the place and you had all the risk of it not working too. Also, it definitely sounds like you invested some of your own money too to make all that possible. He wants all the fruits of the labor without doing any of the labor. I get that you don't want to lose him, so maybe there is a calm way to talk about all of this? With a mediator present or something like that. He needs to understand that you invested the money and succeeded. But I mean, you could have failed too. And if you did, would he just give you money from his half? Last story. Am I the a-hole? Active duty sister-in-law is mad her brother and I are having another baby. Background. My sister-in-law is a divorced single mother to a 2-year-old and is on active duty. She used to have friends that she would regularly leave her child with instead of us, because she also needed someone to feed and watch her 3 dogs, 4 indoor cats, and 3 to 4 outdoor cats. We watched the animals and a friend watched the kid. On multiple occasions, when this friend would fall through on childcare, she would call us the day off, and we would rearrange our lives, fight traffic, and get her kid because we wanted to help. When she has long underways, we made it clear we cannot watch her kid because my husband is also active duty and I work. I cannot drop my own kid off at school and drive 45 minutes to an hour across town to the military base and fight traffic to drop hers off and then get to work on time. Her child goes to the military base daycare facility, while my child goes to a public school 10 to 15 minutes from my house in the opposite direction of the base. His hours don't always allow him the ability to drop her kid off and pick her up. As for the current situation, my husband and I invited my sister-in-law and niece to our child's birthday party on Saturday. We also informed her we were newly pregnant again and mentioned that we had not told my in-laws yet. We assumed she would be excited to be an aunt again. She initially agreed, but my husband and I both noticed a tone change on the phone. We both assumed she had been just annoyed at her little one, since we could hear her trying to shop with her when we called. Later in the evening, she texts my husband and says she isn't coming to the party. He asks why, and she states that we had struggled to help her out with her child and having her a few times a week, but now we're having a whole baby we need to care for 24/7, and that she's hurt and needs some space and time. Of course, I personally could not leave this be, and let her know her comments were selfish, and did not depict the entire picture since we have repeatedly cared for her child on numerous occasions, sometimes with no notice. We have also cared for her animals. It has been made very clear I logistically can't drop ours off and hers off on 2 different sides of town. We have also cared for her animals. She's a 15 to 20 minute one-way drive for us, and sometimes we made multiple trips a day to her home to care for the animals. She snapped at my husband over text. She was angry he had told me what she had said. My husband explained to her that I asked why, and that he does not lie to me, so he told me what was going on. He then had a bad feeling at that point and called mother-in-law, only to find out that my sister-in-law had called and told her we were pregnant. My husband is also livid. She told my in-laws about our pregnancy before we could. We were planning on announcing the second one in a cute way, and she's told that from us. Am I the a-hole for saying something to my sister-in-law to spark off this craziness? Should I have let it be? Just wondering what this woman's plan was when she decided to have a kid. Not the a-hole. She had a husband but got divorced. Took all 5 animals they had at a time. One that I know she got after she was speaking with a lawyer to get divorced. Then continued to get more animals. I'm not sure on the plan either. All that on top of being on active duty? Shaking my head. Definition of biting off more than she can chew. The hubs and I discuss this exact thing regularly. It's impulsive and doesn't make sense. I have a few animals as well, but I work from home and I'm almost always at home. Lol. The animals are my quirky co-workers at this point. Good grief. I am a single mom with 0 family around. Having any help at all would be amazing to me. Your sister-in-law sounds so entitled. Let your mother-in-law handle her and you guys enjoy the new addition to your family, not the a-hole. Thanks. We are super happy. I respect the single mom struggle as I do it when a husband deploys. My house gets a little messy, my Orkie's grooming appointments get a little infrequent, but my kid is clean, fed, and happy, and I'm making it work. I generally don't ask others to help me because I also don't have a large support system here. Talk to the ombudsman at your husband's command. They'll help you meet other wives and set up a support system to help while your husband is deployed. That's their job. Am I the a-hole for giving the vacation of my ex-fiancé 24 female dreams to her sister and husband? I, 26 male, met my ex's sister in high school when she started dating my best friend. During our senior year, she got pregnant and they married soon after. After high school, I joined the military. I served 6 years before getting medically discharged. Ex and I started dating. I got a good job that would have me leave a couple times a month up to 10 days at a time. While doing last-minute wedding planning, a text from her sister popped up asking, "Have you told Opie about what you did with your ex? If you don't do it tonight, I will tomorrow." I asked her what that was, and she tried to play it off. I kept pressing her and she said that during their bachelorette party, she ran into him but nothing happened. It was an obvious lie, so I went through her phone when she fell asleep. There was text and pictures with him all the way back from when we started dating. They would hook up every time I went on work trips. Then I sent proof to my phone. I woke her up, kicked her out, and ended the relationship. She did a cheater's script. The usual excuses, but I told her Stephanie looks a lot like her ex-boyfriend, and showed her one of the screenshots of them together in bed. She started to cry and I gently got her out the door. I canceled all wedding plans and needed some help calling guests to inform them the wedding was off. My friend's wife said that during the bachelorette party, she caught them sneaking away and having intimate time. When she confronted them, she gave my ex the option of coming clean to me herself, or she would do it. She did not know it was an ongoing thing. Now on to our honeymoon vacation. I had planned it so that it would be perfect for my ex. It was a 10-day trip to another country that she has always said was a once-in-a-lifetime bucket list place. There were nice hotels, amazing experiences, and overall her dream vacation. I was already out about 10 grand for the wedding, and more if I canceled the honeymoon trip. So, I made a decision to offer it up to them, since I knew that they never had a honeymoon or any real vacation since they got married young and had kids. Also, they just saved me money and time. They accepted. They were able to get the time off work and had made arrangements for the kids for the trip. My ex found out about it and she flipped out and was calling me and texting me about how much of an a-hole I am for doing that to her. How I knew that it was her dream vacation. How I ruined her life. I also got messages from her friends and some of her family that she lied to and blaming me for the breakup. Her ex even texted me saying that I'm not a real man and then threatened me. She must have gone there last night as he shouldn't have my number. I have not responded to them at all. But am I the a-hole for giving my cheating ex-fiancé's dream honeymoon to her sister and my best friend? Now for the top comments. Take the threat to the police. You owe your cheating ex literally nothing, not the a-hole. Messaged the ex telling her that OP will send the full collection of screenshots, minus the photos obviously, to anyone that harasses him over it. That will shut her up real quick. She and her ex actually have the nerve to harass OP over this? Unreal. I hope her sister will have the best time and won't stop talking about the awesome vacation for years, not the whole. And posts lots of pictures on Facebook. The freaking audacity. Her affair partner telling OP he did something wrong? Look at yourself, bro. You're the one who has been getting it with somebody else's fiancé. I'm not a violent person, but that would make my blood boil. Like, I'd be debating finding this person's family, friends, and boss and sending them the screenshots minus pictures. Hey, y'all know this guy? He's threatening me after he's been sleeping with my fiancé. Just a heads up, I'm going to the cops, so y'all might not see him for a bit. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not lying for my wife in front of her friends regarding me being a stay-at-home parent? When my wife and I decided to start a family, she expressed she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So, we made a plan and set everything up so that she could stay home during the early years. We had our first kid, but she didn't do too well being the stay-at-home parent and had a hard time with it. We still wanted our kids to have a parent at home with them, so we swapped out since her salary was close to mine. 2 kids later and I'm still the stay-at-home dad, working reduced hours remotely. For me personally, it's easier than any job I've had in the past, even the manual labor one, but I recognize that that's just my personal experience. We've touched base on the issue a few times to make sure there's no resentment, guilt, or discomfort on either of our parts. Now, one of her friends from her work invited us and other couples over for dinner. While there, the other couples were talking about childcare in general, and some of the women started sharing their experiences of when they were home. My wife was talking about how she had disliked it and mentioned our arrangement, when one of the women said to me, "Oh, I know you're just itching to get back to having it easy." I responded that I already have it easy, and that for me, being a stay-at-home dad was a cakewalk compared to my office job. I didn't see the point in agreeing with something that just isn't true for me. On the way home, my wife asked why couldn't I just agree with the question and played along. I asked her if she felt bad or guilty that she had a hard time with it, and she said no. So I told her to just forget about it then, because there's no reason for me to lie to make a bunch of other people feel better, so long as it's fine between us. When she got home from work yesterday, she had some attitude, asking me if I had another easy-peasy day, and told me how all day she had to hear from her friends what a smug a-hole I was for making light of their experiences by saying it was a cakewalk. I get that for a lot of people it's hard, but I don't see why I should have to lie about it or fluff someone's ego for not feeling the same way. Am I the a-hole? Additional info. The scheduling, making appointments, taking kids where they need to be, grocery list, school stuff, making sure payments for bills came out, vehicle maintenance, organizing our date nights, finding babysitters, figuring out what needs to be done, falls on me. She keeps tracks of dates important to her family. I keep tracks of dates important to us and my side of the family. I am very detail-oriented. I've done all of that throughout our relationship. We do grocery shopping together on the weekend. I'm interested to know who did all the laundry and housework and cooking. Did this fall to Opie as well? Yes, I do the majority of housework and yard work, all cooking 5 days a week while we share it on weekends, and she only has to put the laundry away once it's already washed and folded. Not the a-hole. When you are doing something you love, it feels easy. I would be so happy if people stopped saying things like this, along with do what you love and it will never feel like work. It's simply not true. Loving something will not magically make a hard task easy, it just makes it worth it. Opie happens to find being a stay-at-home parent easy. Nowhere in the post even does he say he loves doing it. He simply says compared to his office job, it's easier. But it's true for some people. Maybe not you, but everyone is different. Just because a phrase doesn't relate to you doesn't make it untrue. I love what I do, both for a career and for my hobby. It doesn't make either of them easy. That being said, some things just come naturally to some people and childcare seems to come naturally to Opie. Not the a-hole. People were sharing their experience, and you shared yours. Simple as that. You're only allowed to share your experience if it validates theirs. We're in 2023. Anything that makes people uncomfortable should be cancelled. Opie can disagree and share his experience without the prickish delivery. I personally 100% agree with his sentiments about stay-at-home parent life. He doesn't have to play along, but should be diplomatic. Just say he really enjoys it and is happy with this balance of part-time work/childcare. End of. Imagine if you told someone that you struggled with your coursework, and you bet they are glad they already graduated and don't have to do exams anymore. A response of, "Oh, not for me, it was a cakewalk," doesn't seem arrogant to you, like they are claiming some great superiority of intelligence and ability? This is what OP did with his phrasing. A little bit of social skills can go a long way. I don't actually really enjoy it though. It's easier in comparison. It's not misery, but is not wholly enjoyable. Yet that doesn't mean I'm counting down the days to get back to work for something easier, as she insinuated. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my sister what she expected after my daughter didn't invite her to her birthday? My 32 female daughter, 16 female, grew up extremely close to my sister, 23 female, because of how small the age gap between them is, and my sister got married in September. However, she decided to have a child-free wedding, and my daughter was not invited. My daughter was extremely upset about this, as my sister always talked about how important my daughter being at her wedding was going to be, and her wedding being child-free completely came out of left field. Recently, my daughter's 16th birthday passed, and she decided to have a small party with me, as well as her father and a couple of other close family and friends. My sister wasn't invited. And when she asked me what time she should show up, I told her that my daughter was still upset about not being invited to one of her most important events. My sister got upset, asking why I was letting my daughter punish her because she had her wedding how she wanted it. I asked what she expected, knowing how close she and my daughter are, and told her she should have known that my daughter would be upset about it. My daughter had a blast at her party, and my sister is still being passive-aggressive towards me and husband. I know it's my daughter's party, and it's supposed to be about her, but my sister's behavior is making me feel doubtful about my decision. So am I the a-hole? Edit. I did initially bring up that my daughter not being invited upset her, but my sister told she wanted the freedom to go wild at her wedding, and that my daughter would eventually get over it. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister got to decide how she wanted her wedding. Your daughter gets to decide how she wants her party. Tit for tat. I hope your sister learns a lesson. The way she is acting, I have a feeling she won't, but I'm sure she will get over it. It's interesting that sister's feelings are important, but the daughter/nieces aren't. Well, she will learn that actions have consequences. It's fine if she didn't want her niece at the wedding, but she can't then be surprised her niece doesn't want her around when she's still feeling hurt. You have to accept that your decisions won't be liked by everyone, but you have to live with less than perfect relationships due to that. I am all for child-free weddings. I also understand that Denise feels hurt that her aunt didn't want her there on her special day. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your daughter was simply also having her party how she wanted. Child-free weddings are fine to have, but clearly your daughter was hurt by this, and she is allowed to be, and her feelings are valid. Your sister needs to recognize that her choice hurt your daughter. Child-free, I understand, but considering a 16-year-old you were supposedly close with as a child is an insult. I think it's very good that OP's standing with her daughter. It kind of reminds me of that story of the 21-year-old not wanting her 20-year-old friend at her wedding because she was too young to drink. It must be a slap in the face for someone you considered a peer to suddenly deem you as a child. Sister is not an a-hole for wanting a child-free wedding, but surely this would affect their relationship. Aunt made it clear that niece is ultimately a bracket beneath her, which isn't wrong, but it's going to be obvious now in a way it wasn't before. Not the a-hole. Well done in supporting your daughter in this. Your sister got to have the wedding she wanted, and that's great for her, but her choices have consequences and it's not up to you to protect her from them. Last story. Am I the a-hole because our baby ate off our plates? Today was my brother-in-law's birthday and we had a family dinner. There was the birthday boy, his girlfriend, my husband, me, our baby, their parents, uncle and aunt. We went to a Mexican restaurant and I had steak fajitas. Our baby likes to eat off our plates. He grabbed one of my tortillas, so I tore it into strips for him. He also ate the grilled tomatoes, peppers, and onions off of my skillet and grabbed a piece of steak to suck on. Brother-in-law's girlfriend said that it was unappetizing to see our baby grabbing food off of my plate and giving her anxiety as well because she was worried he would choke. I told her to look at her own plate instead of mine. She was somewhat put out when I said that. Halfway through the meal, my husband took the baby so I could focus on my food and socialize a bit. And baby went to town on hubby's leftover chicken quesadilla. Again, brother-in-law's girlfriend said she was anxious and put off her food. My husband just shrugged at her. After dinner, everyone else was using the restroom and it was the two of us watching everyone's stuff. She told me I was very rude of her and that she was unable to enjoy her boyfriend's birthday because of our poor table manners. I said she should have focused on her boyfriend and her own meal instead of what my husband and I were doing. She said I was a very selfish person. I'm very irritated by the whole thing, but since she was so confident we were a-holes to her, were we? Not a-hole. I honestly have no idea how some people survive in the world without being offended to death. Unless the baby is 7 and licking the plates while making loud slurping noises like my husband's nieces. Lol. Girlfriend is crazy. Keep your eyes on your own food. Or if she let the baby crawl across the table and grab stuff off everyone else's plates. Yeah, that would not be okay. My sister-in-law let my nieces do that to my plate and I wasn't able to eat another bite after. Doesn't sound like the baby ate off anyone else's plate though. Not a-hole. What did she expect? Your baby to use a knife and fork and make polite conversation? Unless the baby was stealing her food or throwing it at her, she needed to mind her own business. That is what I'm wondering. Did she say what should have been going on instead? Someone should tell her that little kids eating is never a pretty sight, and she needs to get over it. I'm also disgusted if I see babies or even kids eating. Sticking their hands in their mouth to lick off the ketchup, which is a crime by itself. They dipped their arms to the elbow in, or putting it in and out of their mouth. And then there's saliva everywhere. It's disgusting. But there's nothing you can do, so just pretend like it doesn't bother you and go on with your life. Not a-hole. My baby practically only eats off my plates, even if I give her the exact same thing. She wants to grab it herself, from my plate. The comment about choking seems like the kind of veiled judginess you only get from non-parents, who don't actually know anything about babies. Honestly, this is one of the best ways to make sure your kids aren't picky eaters from what I've seen. Put them on your lap, let them grab and sample whatever is on your plate with supervision. Way better at expanding their palate than the bland kiddie menus.